Good morning, Downieville. Welcome to Dirt Magic, the Downieville Sessions. I'm your host, Martin Scheel. Dirt Magic, the Downieville Sessions, brings you good times from the great people of the Downieville Classic. In the days leading up to the 25th anniversary of this epic event, you will hear from some great people, including past champions, riders, volunteers, staff, guests, and locals, sharing their classic stories that all began some 28 years ago. Our guests today hail from a land of steady habits, nutmeg, and Mark Twain. And although punk rock may have fired their engines early on, it would soon give way to their steady habit of mountain biking. That newfound love brought them out west, searching for the epic land of trails and mountainous beauty, aka the Lost Sierra. As they settled into their new promised land, a new mission arose. A mission of resurrecting a steward of the trails, and thus began their journey into a world of trail building, stewardship, and enjoying the mecca of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Their two became three, and this trifecta never looked back, pushing ever forward to support our public lands and saweet Sierra singletrack. They're longtime racers and volunteers for the Downieville Classic, and all around good people. Please welcome Amy, Ben, and Max Fish. Amy, Ben, Max, welcome to the show.
Hi, Marty.
Hi, Marty. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you guys so much for coming on. It feels like the winter was just going to keep going and going and going, and none of us were going to see each other in our trail posts until like August. I can tell you.
I know.
Oh, so here we are, 2023, post two major fires, post pandemic. Looking at one of the busiest winters ever, but yet something is coming up this year that hasn't happened, going on almost 4 years. And that, of course, is the Downieville Classic 25th anniversary. And looking back, you know, for you three, and especially when it was just you two, you know, did you ever think that it would be a day where there's Tahoe Area Mountain Biking Association, the Sierra Buttes Trail Stewardship, the 25th anniversary Downieville Classic, and here we are on a podcast of all things?
I don't think I knew what a podcast was. There was no podcast back then when we first started going. So it's amazing. It's an amazing legacy.
Marty, when we moved out from Connecticut to Tahoe, we had like 2 bucket list mountain bike events to go to. And it was the Sea Otter Classic and the Downieville Classic. And it was like, that was how that we knew we were going to embrace the mountain biking scene of California when we got to do those 2 things. It was like such a big deal. And so like thinking back to moving out to Tahoe and now like being part of it is pretty cool.
Yeah, 20 years later, and the only one we keep going back to is the Classic. Nothing against the Otter.
Yeah. Well, you know, and the Sea Otter is, I mean, that thing was epic. And this was probably the first year, other than the pandemic years, that I had not attended in, I don't know, I mean, probably at least 15 years. And, you know, the positive point was, though, on Sunday evening, and of course I texted Greg, Willie, for those listening, our executive director at the Stewardship. It was about 5 or 6 p.m. and I said, boy, it sure is nice that I'm sitting at home right now, as opposed to 5 to 6 hours into a 7 to 8 hour traffic laden drive home from Monterey.
Totally.
Well, that was, you know, that's a big one. Sea Otter Classic was huge. I mean, we sponsored that back in my Earthlink days, and that's for the year 2000, going way back. And yeah, that's for sight unseen, hitting that festival first, coming out that's a large festival, you know, to go to. And of course, you know, the Downieville Classic, it's unique as it is, and the transformation that we've gone through. But you mentioned 20 years ago. Is that when you guys moved from Connecticut?
It was, yeah, 2003 we moved out. And I think within a couple months we had already been to Downieville. It was like hot on the bucket list, right?
It calls to you. And, the same thing for me. The first time I visited was through, Alex Aguilar when he still owned Dynamic Bicycles. And he says, Marty, we've got to take you to Downieville. And boy, that was it. I mean, it basically just embedded onto my DNA. And, that was kind of my entry into mountain biking all that time too. And obviously it stuck. But were you guys mountain bikers back in Connecticut then before the move?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Big time. We used to race in Connecticut and ride bike park in Vermont and stuff in the early 2000s, late 90s. And, as a little, even pre-teenager, I carved a bunch of trails in my parents' backyard. And that was kind of my intro to mountain biking. And, and then kind of took it to bigger places. And of course, if you're on the East Coast, you just want to get west to where the mountains are bigger and there's a lot more land. So.
Well, I assumed you guys were probably some pretty avid ski bums as well.
Well, I have to say that we were maybe big fish in a small pond, because when we moved to Tahoe, it was eye-opening for how many like amazing skiers, mountain bikers, outdoorsmen there are here. So we moved here, and our eyes were open to like the possibilities of what skiing and what mountain biking could really be. And like you go to Downieville for the first time and you're like, oh yeah, I'm a super mountain biker. And then you get rocked. And it's great and it's good and it pushes you.
Then there comes Mark Ware on your rear wheel and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. How many more miles is it back to town on this downhill? So Amy, and I just have to remind you, you do realize what you just said, right? The big fish in a little pond. Yeah.
Yes. No pun intended there.
Yeah, sure. That's a good one though. And I'm sure, Ben, you probably haven't heard that ever within your lifetime, or the three of you for that matter. So, what was the impetus then to get to Downieville and the Downieville Classic? Well, I mean, what happened first? Did you go to the Downieville Classic first, and that's how you found out how great the riding was at Downieville, or was it vice versa?
No, we went as soon as we moved out, we did the you go to Yosemite, you go to Downieville. Like these are the places you go to when you move to Tahoe. And we did that. And then I think the first year Amy broke her arm, so wasn't able to ride. But then we started racing, was that 2005, I think? And right around that time as well, we found out that there was volunteer days and we're like, we're going to race.
We have to do a big shout out to longtime Downieville supporter volunteer Steve Fong. Long story is that he actually is also from Connecticut and he moved out to California around the same time as us. And he was the one who really kept pushing it. He kept encouraging us to come out and to see what the community is, because it's one thing to go to Downieville and ride. And then it's another thing to partake in the shenanigans that is a volunteer weekend. And I have to say, from there on out, we were hooked to being a part of what the buttes are.
Yeah, it was one thing to race and then another thing to volunteer and contribute.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And that was my pathway too early on, because really only wanted to race the downhill at the time. And I think I did the cross country 2 years. And then the third year on that climb, and it was, of course, after a very late evening at the St. Charles. And I was probably not even a mile up out of Sierra City and got tangled up with another cyclist. My derailleur snapped off and he was super apologetic. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. If my derailleur fits, you can just have mine. And I'm like, I'm just going to take this as a sign. I said, just get back on your saddle. Let me give you a little push, because that climb is so hard to get started on if you're dead stopped on that fire road. And shoved him on his way, turned right around, slowly coasted back down. One of the vans was still there, rode back to Downieville. And after that, it was all volunteer. And then, of course, eventually onto the microphone. Yeah. And I was okay with that for sure.
I think it was a good transition. And that was kind of how we got into it too, is we started back when you could do just the downhill. And when you could do just the downhill, that was a lot of fun. And then we started doing the all mountain. And then we kind of transitioned to just doing the cross country so that we could have a little more fun afterwards and not worrying about racing 2 days in a row. And then we just transitioned to volunteering. And maybe maybe this guy will start racing and we'll go back to it. So, it might be cyclical.
You mentioned, Steve Fong, and I'll throw out a big thank you to Steve. He's already been on the show, and I think his is actually out there and published already. But yeah, hailing from Connecticut, and gosh, with a route through between New York and Louisiana. But yeah, long time volunteer, and yeah, I'm glad he mentioned it, because it'd be amazing, how different it would all be right now. And I'm curious too, I'm going to bring in Tamba to this, because, the Sierra Beach Trail Stewardship, this is our 20th anniversary. We started in 2003. And if memory serves correct, that's right about the time that the early Tamba, I think, stopped operating. Is that pretty close, or somewhere right around in there? Is that correct? 2002?
That's in that early 2000s. There's no set date of when it disbanded, the first version of Tamba, but right about when we moved to Tahoe, ironically. But yeah, we started volunteering on the Buttes 2005, 2006, building Sunrise Trail, which was super cool. And it was kind of like, wow, this is happening in this small little community, and this is so fun. We could do this in Tahoe. And it was just like a huge inspiration, for us, and starting Tamba 2.0, or the new version of Tamba, and modeling it and stealing it, if you will. How much fun the Buttes has on their volunteer days and events. And
we were pretty jealous. It was pretty jealous to come and be a part of it, and then to come back to Tahoe and not have that. And I think it was a realization that if that was something that was really important to us, continuing to build trails and build community, it was something that we were going to have to sort of kickstart. So thank you.
Yeah, no. And I mean, well, thank you guys. I mean, that helped propel us too, because that relationship, is symbiotic, and Tamba really grew and flourished, and it was great for the Tahoe trails, because, when you look at kind of the socioeconomic differences between, Sierra County and obviously the South Lake Tahoe communities, there's a lot of money there that if they, without any advocacy or proponents of mountain biking on trails, who knows what it would look like today, for those that have super deep pockets and access to flesh-eating lawyers. There could have been, restrictions where maybe those trails weren't multi-use, including, bicycles. And, Tamba is definitely, a big proponent, and probably help, guide that process. And, I know, Ben, in the beginning, you're a part of it, and you were actually were president or executive director of the organization as well, correct?
I was never paid, but yeah, I was for about 10, 11 years, just until last year, actually, was president and trail director before that. And yeah.
And Amy, are you still, you're a board member or advisory board?
We are on the advisory board now. We now have some pretty solid paid staff. We have a great executive director at Tamba, and a new board. But then we have an advisory board, which is kind of like us old school people, if you will.
So how is that going, Amy? Is it still? I mean, do you guys really? I know our advisory board. We had a rather large one, and then our direct board too. And I was on our advisory board for many years, being on the microphone and volunteering, until I started taking a more direct active role. But I tell you, it's for my experience with an amazing group of people from all walks of life, different backgrounds, and some even not coming directly just from the cycling industry or mountain biking. They're just more outdoor enthusiasts and had a passion for trails. And I know that's been a big success on the stewardship side. And I assume that Tamba's probably moving in that same direction.
I think that, like what you're speaking of is like having different people with different talent was kind of why Ben and I tried to like take a step back after being in it for over 10 years was I think we wanted other people to have room to grow and to make Tamba their own too, because we were such a huge part of it. And so we really wanted other people to have that platform to be able to like step up. And luckily, Ben set it up for success with some really good paid staff. So Tamba's chugging along, and hopefully we'll have like a lot less volunteer burnout when you've got paid staff. So
yeah, it definitely helps. And I know those volunteer days too. And that definitely goes both ways with our pro trail crew. that's paid, in the summertime, full time on the trails. But it's nice to where they don't have to fully, babysit volunteers. And at the same time, there's enough guidance, for those volunteers. One of our biggest fears was someone getting onto the trail and not enough to do, or they felt like they weren't accomplishing anything because they didn't have the guidance, and then wouldn't want to come back. I mean, when you guys,
100%.
Yeah, they want to feel useful.
Yeah, if
yeah,
someone spends their day with you volunteering, they want to make sure that their like efforts are going to good use. And so having that is like that's a hard chore, being able to manage volunteers in that way to make everybody feel meaningful.
yeah, and it, the bottom line is, one, obviously, trail production that could not happen. There's not enough money on in planet Earth, at least for trails, to hire that kind of a full time amount of people. And secondly, too, puts pride right back into the trail system, and then hopefully, like you guys and many other families, they bring their children out at a young age, and they get to cut their teeth digging dirt, and hopefully that legacy that we've all started and worked on for decades will continue on through our offspring and children and their friends, and it's a good success story. And definitely our two organizations, working side by side, definitely sister organizations. We love what you guys do over there, and it's nice to have that success that we can monitor and look at, because it gives us perspective too, and that goes right back to the advisory board and our board of directors, having somebody that's finance related, and we're still, looking for even another board member now. Let's get somebody even further outside of cycling, still outdoor recreation, but maybe even on the fringe of that. Let's find somebody that has knowledge that maybe we've been taking for granted, now for almost 20 years, and somebody can kind of, give us a little slap across the face and go, hey, you guys should wake up to this and take a look at this. And that's kind of what happened with the pandemic, with us and our, the big three events that we did prior to the pandemic. I mean, those were massive fundraisers for us. And boy, when that went away, I mean, I'm sure you guys were in the same boat. You look at funding and it was like, uh-oh, what are we going to do now?
Yeah, especially
it's
when
a
you're not
change.
being able to like rally volunteers in the same way too,
Yeah, definitely. And Sunrise Trail. I mean, there's, that was one of the first great successes of a lot of our volunteer trail work, paid trail crew members building trail. Of course, you guys were a huge component with that. And we basically took away fire road and pavement and put people on single track. And boy, anytime you can do that, I mean, that's a success story. And that really started it. And boy, the downhill changed and forced everybody into a new style of riding, for the downhill, because there's a little bit of pedaling at the top now. It's not just point down and go. You've got to be ready to pedal just for a little bit. And then, yeah,
Sunrise Trail
that's, yeah.
is like that was the trail that really got me in the mindset of like what trail work was. It was like working on that trail and then feeling that pride every time I rode it, to be like, oh, I'm a part of this. And it was like what we wanted everybody in Tahoe to feel like, hey, participate with trail building, because you'll always have that feeling deep inside of you when you ride that trail that it's always going to be a part of you. So it was like, that was eye opening. And there's a picture of the grand opening of Sunrise Trail, and to like see us with your organization, it makes me smile. I love it.
Yeah, those were, and it's just, I mean, it's literally gone uphill and downhill in a good way from that point on. Um, you know, with Downieville and the Downieville Classic, we've been trying to promote people, and this includes the Lost and Found and other events, to go more carbon neutral. And we've worked with an offset company for carbon offsets, and we encourage carpooling and even some migration routes for the Lost and Found for folks that have the time and resources, maybe to, if they can, depending on where they live, ride their bike, to the event.
You know how I
And
feel about that one.
that's why I'm bringing it up right now, because there's a little story about someone that's within the group that we're all talking right now that rode from home to the Downieville Classic.
I did. Marty, I rode from South Lake Tahoe to Downieville Classic. I have to say, though, I had the best cheat ever, which is I hopped on a boat at Camp Richardson, and I took the boat from Camp Rich to Tahoe City, and then I mountain biked the rest of the way. And the first time that I did, I've done it twice now. The first time I did it was on a fully rigid bike, and that fire road that brings you into Downieville, it was it was a rough one. It was eye-opening, right? Um, and so the next year I did it on the Ibis Tranny on the hardtail with some front suspension. What is that road called? You know, the one that comes in right behind town. It is intense.
Yeah, well, the Lavazola is what Main Street kind of converts into and gets up into the trail system.
No, like on
But
the
it
other side.
branches off.
Kirk Ensheimer gave me warning. He said, make sure
that's right.
he said, make sure your brake pads are new going into that. Cause I did some reconnaissance beforehand. And so I think that would be really cool. The only thing I would say is I want it to be more single track. I'll do the commute again, but it would be really cool if there was like a little bit more single track. There's a lot of fire road in there, but it's amazing and it's beautiful. It's a fun adventure.
Well, we are working on such a trail system just for you, Amy. It's called Connected Communities and the Lost Sierra Route. And now, granted, this is a legacy project, so we're going to be working on this for another 7 to 10 years, as long as the funding keeps coming in and the environmental doesn't slow us down too much. But yeah, literally multi-use single track, and maybe that'll be a classic follow-up here in the next decade if we're all still motoring along properly, and we'll have to have Gensheimer and get together and we'll do a little movie of Amy Fish and her trek on all single track from Tahoe to Downieville.
Next time we'll do it as a family ride.
Yeah, it'll be a great group ride, the Tahoe to Downieville migration.
Yes. Max, what do you think about that? That's not too far.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Hardtail or e-bike? Pick one. Which bike would you do it on?
Like the first time I used my e-bike.
Yeah, probably.
A little bit cheat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Max. I wouldn't consider that cheating at all. I'd be on the e-bike the whole way and have those key locations for battery swap for sure. So this will go to all three of you then. Within the Downieville trail system, Amy, what's your favorite trail?
Okay, favorite trail. Within the Downieville system, are we counting all the way from Huff to Mills and over?
No, just the Downieville. So from the top of Packer.
I think hands down, Third Divide is the most fun. And I have to say, when I was 6 months pregnant with Max, I went up second and down third, and I was like, I am going to really beat the love of Downieville into Max by making him ride it even before he was born. So I would say, hands down, Third Divide is one of the most fun trails in existence.
What's yours, Max? I think you had a feature on yours you were mentioning.
I think I agree with my mom about Third Divide. That one's really fun. But I also there's this one feature on, I forget the name of the show, but we ride it a lot. We ride it every time we go to Downieville. And it's this big rock slab, and it's really fun to ride.
Oh, Gold Valley Rim.
Yeah, Gold Valley Rim. The big rock slab on
the rock slab
it's
at
really
the bottom.
Fun.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good trail too. It's so good, and it's so nice that we got to take a portion of PCT, do the reroute, and then build that trail. And it's really added a great dynamic to the cross country course, and gives you some other options too, other than just the true downhill from up on Packer for sure. And
Some
Ben,
cool knowledge.
yeah, absolutely.
I can't go with
Ben,
one trail, so I got to go with the ride of Gold Valley to Pauley to Butcher to Third to Town. That's just. I feel like it just, because whenever you did the Downieville downhill before, it just felt, even though it was 15, 16 miles, it just felt too short. It was too much fun. Whoa, a bear just ran across our backyard. Sorry. But yeah.
Well, that's okay. Hey, that's what mountain life is all about.
But that extra new section of trail, it adds just enough extra mileage, and you feel so satisfied.
Awesome. So, for race wise, now have both Ben and Amy, have you guys both raced the All Mountain, or have either of you raced the All Mountain, or were you just pure volunteers by the time we created the All Mountain?
Oh yeah. I raced for about 12 straight years. Yeah. Started downhill, then to All Mountain, then to cross country only. Amy's done.
I don't know how many years I did it for. I have to say though,
5 or 6.
Yeah. And then I just really wanted to enjoy the weekend more. There's something about volunteering that you really get to enjoy the fun out of that whole weekend and not worry about racing. I do miss racing though. So same path, downhill, then All Mountain, then cross country. And now it's just fun to be part of the inner workings of the event.
So then with the All Mountain, which leg of that event is your favorite, cross country or downhill?
Downhill.
Now
no one can tell me they love crushing
Yeah.
up that fire road
up to
There's
Blue
no
Point.
way.
Oh my gosh.
You can't.
8 miles of grind, and what is it, 3,000 of vert on a fully exposed fire road, which it can either be 28 degrees by the time you get to the top, or it can be already 70 degrees, in the mid mountain with the sun beating on you, and that's not fun at all.
No, but I gotta say, when you get to Blue Point and that party's going on up there,
And the bacon?
it does give you a little extra boost on that.
But we're like soft Tahoe people when it comes to the heat, and so that climb it can be a little soul crushing.
Yeah, and definitely Blue Point, the aid station there, and then of course the big one up at Packer. It's interesting on a lot of our little promo and stoke videos. If we were to actually go down just far enough where you can't see the aid station at Blue Point and film folks there, their facial expressions are going to look far different from when they come around that little bend. You can hear the music, you see the tents, and you're like, I made it. There's water there. I've survived. I'm going to make it.
There's still a grind after that, though, but it gives you that extra energy boost. Yeah. And at least that by then you'll have only got 19 more miles or 17, 18 more miles to go up the course.
I'm hoping we pass the torch soon, though, because Max this year is finally old enough to be able to do the race. So what do you think?
I feel like that would be really fun. It would be slightly soul crushing, but I feel like it would be close to a roasted toads. I think that'd be fun.
I think it's a little bit easier than roasted toads. I think you got it.
Oh, that's great. Well, I certainly hope to see the young Mr. Fish in the registration rolls as we're approaching selling out. But, you guys may know some people. So, I'm confident there's a way to get Max in there regardless if he's ready.
I think he's got this.
Yeah.
So, Max, let's take this to you a little bit here. A couple of things. One, I was asked to ask you about a particular, I don't know if it's an incident or not, but you and Miles Williams and a propane tank.
Do you remember this?
I don't remember that at all.
Okay, we were at a fundraiser for the Buttes at Nakoma, and Miles and Max were in a backyard hitting a full propane tank with a hammer?
Something like that.
This kind of sums them up. They are just both feral beings. And actually, one of my very favorite rides ever was Max and Miles doing...
do you remember that, Max? Your Mills Peak for the first time?
Oh, I do remember that.
What do you remember about that ride?
I just remember it was like we were towards the bottom, and it was just like this little stretch of downhill. And it was just like my fingers were frozen, and my mom was like yelling at me to slow down, and I was like yelling back like, my fingers are frozen, I can't stop. And then we finally get down to the bottom, and there's this truck waiting at the bottom, and all our friends are there.
Cosby was in it.
Yeah.
Kenzie gave you some like cookies that she had stashed away.
Yeah.
I think you and Miles were like 6 or 7 years old riding Mills for the first time.
And we had all of the different weather patterns that one could have in a single mountain bike ride. There was thunder and lightning and hail and sleet and rain. You and Miles have gone on some really cool adventures together.
Yeah, and then hammering on a propane tank. I mean, if you're gonna take excitement to the next level. Now, we can't fully blame you boys, especially if you were 6 or 7 years old at the time, and at that age, everything is truly a learning experience. And you would think by the time that you're in your early 20s, you'd learn those lessons. But apparently, some of our crew had not, because back in the early 2000s. While we were volunteering, and this was before pretty sure it was before I was on the microphone, and we would camp at Indian Valley Campground down on 49, outside of Downieville. And one of the mornings, someone was getting ready to get the fire going, the campfire going, and they noticed one of the small 1-pound propane tanks still sitting in the nice warm coals. And, that's always a great sight to see when you see a green 1-pound canister that hopefully used to have propane in it sitting in a hot bed of coals. And you're like, okay, well, if that explodes, there's no way everybody's going to be in some serious trouble. Well, come to find out, one of our camping folks was picking up all the paper and everything and putting it in a burn bag, so we could use to start the fire. somebody else thought it was trash and threw the empty propane tank in that. So it made its way into the fire. So sometime that night, we're all sitting around the campfire, and that bag of paper went in there and that propane tank. And luckily there wasn't any propane in it, or the vent went off, and released whatever was left in there. So Max, don't worry about it, because we were in our 20s then. And obviously we hadn't learned, since we were 6 or 7 years old. So you're good to go, buddy.
I think some of our best Downieville camping adventures have all included a grand fire. There have been fires over at the Lure that have been exceeded anything I've ever seen in my life. So
in the middle of January, of course, we're talking.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Note to self, and for all those listening, not in the middle of summer by any means. So yes. Okay, so let's actually, Max, let's stay with you, and then we'll go back and heckle your mom and dad a little bit. And this is kind of a cool thing, consecutive ski months. You got to tell me about that.
Yeah, I feel like we started this a while ago, and it's just like, at first there's all three of us, and then me and my dad have kept the legacy going. No hard feelings, Mom. Like, she's gotten hurt a couple times and had to miss a couple of them.
How many months?
Like 76 months straight.
78 right now.
78, my bad. Yeah, and I feel like my goal has been 100 for a while now, and that's what I'm shooting for. But it's just been a super fun experience. Like, I've gone to Argentina. We've gone to the patch with friends. It's been super fun.
But nowhere you haven't skied yet? At the Buttes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy, you'll have a lot of opportunity this year, probably well into the summer months.
This year's going to be a lot easier than last year. Last year was not a great year for it.
Yeah, that reminds me of volunteering for July 4th weekend, 2011. Yeah, digging out with snow shovels and Butcher Ranch.
The snow tunnels.
Yeah.
Yep, we are looking at 2023 as a potential repeat for that, especially now with the Classic being mid-July as it was back in 2011. I do have good news. They say that Gold Lake Highway is melting at about a foot of depth a week. Which is good. So the more that's going, and they're starting to get some equipment up there to start plowing, and hopefully we can spread the gospel, get some folks in front of the Board of Soups, and get some equipment up to Packer, and get everything open. But there's still probably going to be some opportunity for some of those large drifts, just like in 2011, for snow blowers, shovels, and ice chainsaws to get out there and dig some 6 to 8 foot deep troughs. And
maybe we'll build a jump and Max can ski over it.
Yeah. See, it could be both. Yes. Bike and ski. Somebody did actually mention that. Yeah, you guys could do a multi-event. I'm like, oh, that's just what we need, is people mountain biking and skiing at the same time. Our insurance company would love that.
I think it's going to be hard for us Tahoe folks to get in shape for this race. Right now, we're just cruising around on some dirty roads, just trying to get our legs back.
Yeah, I saw a post today on Tim that had some shots of some of the trailheads there, and it's still looking pretty snowy. I saw some dirt though, which that's good. If you see dirt in Tahoe, that's good for us up in the Buttes as well.
We just got to the bike park last night and had our first mini dig day, I guess you could say, and we got a couple jumps open at the bike park. So I'm claiming that as the first dirt in Tahoe that you can ride.
Success. Yes, absolutely. Yep. Bring them on. Well, the more people you get out there, and, and even like on the Downieville system, that's, motos can get on. It's like, oh boy, just get the snow down. We can get some of those motos up there, have them break it up a little bit, and then let Mother Nature and the good old sunshine, take the rest of the way for us. But, snow we can deal with. We'll get out there, and just like we did in 2011 and dig and snow blowers and whatever we have to do. But boy, the fires and the smoke, we don't control that, obviously. And we just figured this was the better path. And
I'll take the snow over smoke and fires any day.
Yeah.
100% concur on that one. All right, this one's going to go a little to. This is actually for Mom and Dad. I need to ask about the old punk rock days. You got to fill me in on the punk rock days.
I actually think this ties to volunteering and the Buttes and Tama, because it's that punk rock spirit. But Ben and I met in mid-90s at punk rock shows back in Connecticut. Back in the day when people made these zines and we traded them, and that's how we met.
We were 17 years old.
And so I feel like that punk rock spirit has brought us to hanging out with the Buttes. It's pretty wild. And then kind of what we've tried to bring to Tampa, which is like the punk rock spirit of like the Corral Night Ride, right? Like it's mountain biking, but it's kind of got that free for all attitude. So
There's kind of, I mean, mountain biking, even as a kid, it's got this DIY, style to it, right? Like you're just out there, you can contribute, like you can really create the scene yourself. And I think there's nothing else controlling it. And I think the fact that, just ordinary folks can get out there and create a scene is just like punk rock.
I think it's also the same thing about punk rock and mountain biking is with punk rock, you got to like know your idols, right? You got to go to punk rock shows and you got to like meet everybody and you got to connect with them. And I feel the same thing with mountain biking is that you get to meet these people and they become your friends. Like Scott Nichols, someone that we met through mountain biking, and he's such a legend and he's now our buddy, which is super cool. And so I see those two worlds connected.
And it really does. It really kind of transposes, who you meet, people that become friends. Some people, become family member, certainly with our organization, the stewardship and, the folks that I've met, including, you guys over the decades, it's become a large family. And Ben, to your point, absolutely. You can create your own scene. And I think mountain biking probably help even spur kind of some of the fun, like the criteriums on road races. Cause, a lot of those, even like down in Sacramento when I was at college at Sac State, they do them up in Rancho, one of those business parks. It would show up, you sign in, you race around the business park, whatever class you're in. They had some little tiny podium, you get your medal, and that was it. It's like, bye. Which it only really attracted the actual racer, which, had its point. But when you start getting to some of the Twilight ones, in Nevada City, they kind of started adding that festival to it. But, a lot of the mountain bike races, like Downieville Classic, some of those more unique ones, we really tried to gear it towards that from the very beginning because it's such a magical place that, man, bring your family because ultimately we want you to come back.
It's true. And it feels like everyone belongs, right? Everyone belongs there and you're part of it. Yeah, it's very welcoming.
Yep, definitely. Well, for the race, let's help Max a little bit. So if he does get registered, what would you guys tell him to do as far as bike setup in the all mountain? Because of course, one bike, 2 races, no changes.
Marty, we're all on the same bike, and it is the perfect bike for the Downieville Classic. Max, what bike are you on?
The hardtail.
No!
Oh, you'd ride the hardtail. Huh? I don't know.
You ride the Ripple?
Oh, yeah.
Max does NICA races too, so he's always riding a hardtail on those. But back in the day, remember the split with Jason Mosler and Mark Ware, and it was the Blur LT versus the Nomad. And what's funny is Amy had the Blur LT and I had the Nomad. And so I don't know, we were split, I guess.
There were, people were still shocked and I still fully give all the success to Weir's skin suit when he wore that full one-piece skin suit. I told him totally. that's what really did it. And he and Mosler too. I mean, of course, those guys, especially back then for WTB, they were basically, that was the research and development department for all WTB mountain bike tires to see if they could handle, Downieville. If it could go through Downieville and get a green light, then they knew they had a successful tire. But yeah, I think people were shocked. We're on the Blur in a skin suit, almost no padding, especially going through the waterfall and where you pick your line there. And that's a do or die situation on the line he took because you either rode it and jumped, or the helicopter was coming. And, people were used to the downhill with, like Santa Cruz, the V10 or just big hit bikes from Intense and Rocky Mountain and seeing him come in this lightweight, fully suspended bike in a skin suit, with maybe some elbow pads and knee pads. And that was it. And a helmet, of course, and an arrow, not an arrow helmet, but a pretty sleek helmet nonetheless. And people were just shocked. And when he, of course, this was pre-sunrise, but what was that, 38 minutes or 39? He did it in 1 year.
Sub
And we
40s.
just, we're like, oh, good grief. Come on, give me a break. Really? But he said it. He goes, this is my backyard and you're not going to beat me. Unless, of course, you were Mosler once more and a young, aspiring future junior national champion, Mr. Henry O'Donnell. So I'm sure Mark will appreciate these words when I get him on the podcast later on.
Well, I guess we'll need to go out, and Max, you're going to need to do a little back-to-back ride and try the hardtail and try the Ritmo and see which one works for you.
Yeah.
You might have a little more fun on the Ritmo, but you might
Not on that climb.
No.
Yep, all things considered. Well, as soon as that snow melts, you'll have to get up there, Max, and start getting some practice runs in, and yeah, we hope to hopefully you'll have good success on the mountain. And that, that's a testament right there, Ben and Amy, to a lot of similar folks, that were racing 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and their kids now are getting to the age where we see them in the registration, and it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome to see the youth coming up, and
it's fulfilling.
Well, Marty, I do have a question for you, which is the trifecta going to be part of the Classic this year?
Yeah. I was going to close with that before we say goodbye, because we're pushing up on 40 minutes here. And we're going to do something, but they have changed the parklands there above Ube Expeditions. And where Boomtown Lounge is now, there's picnic tables. They've got concrete fence and redwood fencing. Of course, the gazebo's there now as well. And it was there for one or two of them. So we're going to have to kind of figure out what we're going to do. We're going to do something. And it's probably going to involve a little more of the parking lot area, where the river jump starts, and still hopefully some of those parklands. We just have to be sensitive to all the hard work from the good folks of Sierra County and Downieville have done. And, we don't want to damage anything up there because it's such a beautiful area that they put together. But we will do something. And you, of course, will have to be involved because you still have the moniker, and always will, obviously, as the first trifecta champion ever.
Well, it is my proudest ever Downieville Classic moment, because it's the only time in my life I've ever got to stand at the tippity top of the podium for the Downieville Classic was for the trifecta. And so maybe I can't ride my bike as fast as others on that course, but I can ride a pixie bike, chug a beer, do Wild Island, and ride a mechanical bull the fastest.
In a log pole.
Oh, yes. And although I can't say it on the air publicly yet, we've got a pretty big surprise coming for the river jump, and I'll just leave it at that. So,
wait.
So good stuff coming there. But yes, there will be the criterium, a trifecta of some sort. So as always, Amy, you will have to defend, that first championship as well. And Max, that'll be a good opportunity for you to get in there and potentially get on the podium. But you'll have to take it easy though a little bit, because you don't want to hinder yourself for the Saturday, Sunday 2 days of just epicness.
I think for the Downieville Classic, you have to pace yourself. You can't go all in right off the bat.
Yeah, I think we've all found out what happens when you don't pace yourself the hard way.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, you guys, it's been great having you on. And I mean, we could, if we treated this like sitting around the campfire at the pub, we could probably talk for hours and go back on lots of stories. But we'll
do that this summer.
Yes, exactly. Super stoked to have you both back. And, it's like we're getting the band back together, the family reunion. I mean, there's so many things we can say about the 25th anniversary, and we're going to go as big as we can and have a good time. We're super excited for it. It'd be great to have you guys there. Max, it's going to be great to see you on the registration. You never know. The next time, you may hear me say, and with the time of, and the number one top spot, Max Fish. Yep, it's a possibility. Well, thanks you guys so much for coming. Really appreciate it. It's been great talking to you.
Marty.
Yeah.
Thank you. This means a lot.
And folks too, please remember tamba.org. That's TAMBA.org, Tahoe Area Mountain Biking Association. And they are purveyor of fine trails in the Tahoe area. A wonderful sister organization, great organization, working right alongside the Sierra Beach Trail Stewardship. So, support both of these organizations. They do great things. They keep the trails open, have good times and good fun. So, and Ben and Amy have been a part of that since the resurrection for some time now. So, yeah, and thank you guys for that. It's good all around.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys, take it easy. Max, good seeing you, buddy. Stay away from those propane tanks, okay? All right, you guys. Take it easy.
We'll see you later.
You've been listening to Dirt Magic, the Downieville Sessions. I'm your host, Martin Shield. Dirt Magic is produced by the Sierra Buttes Trailed Stewardship. Music selection courtesy of the Saddle Tramps. Stay tuned for our next Downieville Sessions, and thanks again for listening.